So I have Bruce here with me today, and we've had a great time ghostwriting his book. Hey Bruce, how you doing?
Very good. Nice to
Good.
see you.
Nice to see you again. Why don't you start by telling them a little bit about what you do?
Okay. So I always kind of tell people that I was a U.S. Foreign Service officer for 25 years. And I guess what I'm doing now is more my retirement job. And I do a lot of mostly volunteer work at the United Nations. And I'm on a whole bunch of committees like the NGO Committee on Human Rights, the NGO Committee on Disarmament, Peace, and Security, on the Israel Palestine Working Group, on the Security Council Working Group.
I know one of the reasons you wanted to do the book was for speaking, to get more paid speaking engagements. How do you feel the book helps with your credibility in terms of getting more engagements?
Well, I think anybody that writes a book gets a lot of credibility. And I'll give you an example. I was at a really interesting meeting yesterday at New York University, where I'm adjunct professor, and Jonathan Haidt was there. And he's written some really wonderful books. And we were going, so happy that he joined this meeting. And all of us, and there were a lot of us, there was something like 30 people in the room. We were all looking at Jonathan Haidt because of the books that he's written. I'm hoping, I'm not going to be in the category of Jonathan Haidt, but I think having a good book that people will read and be attracted by, and talking to other people about the book, I think it's going to make it easier for me to get speaking engagements. And when I do speak to people, they'll say, "Oh yeah, we've heard about your book, or we've read your book, or we've heard it on as an audiobook." And I'm really hoping that with this book that I can get more speaking engagements and probably get um, a better income out of it as
Mhm.
well.
And why did you want to do the book?
I wanted to do the book because I had lived a lot overseas. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, and I, worked in Saudi Arabia, and then all the years I was a Foreign Service officer, and I really enjoyed my time. And it wasn't that everything was perfect. There was some difficult times. I was in the Nairobi embassy bombing, for example, which was a very difficult time. But I basically wanted to let people know, despite the fact that, bad things can happen, that for the most part, living overseas is a lot of fun. So I wanted to write a book about my experience in living overseas, basically as a way to encourage people to be fearless and to go overseas and to visit and even work and maybe stay for a while, and experience what life is like in other parts of the world.
And now that we've ghostwritten the book for you, do you think it's achieved those objectives?
Yes, very much. And I was very happy with your guidance. It made the writing certainly much easier because you gave me kind of targets and things that I could put together to have, you call them foundations. Yeah. So you had the foundations of the book.
And how do you think the book might have turned out if you hadn't have sought any help with it?
It wouldn't have happened, because I've tried to write on my own, and you're just a really good guide. You're very gentle in how you guide me, at least, and I think how you guide other people, because I've been in your group course as well, and you're a very kind and thoughtful guide. Um, there's no criticism like, "Oh, you're doing the wrong thing." It's like it's all very warm and positive, and I really appreciate that.
Warm and positive, and there is criticism, but it's always constructive, right? So I always tell you like it is, but not in like a mean or degrading way. Yep. So
It's been a pleasure actually working with you because you make it fun, you make it, as I said, warm and gentle and positive. So I really appreciate that.
you've been a pleasure to work with too. So if you think about the challenges that you initially had going into writing this book? What was the main challenge?
I needed the guidance. Just kind of sitting down cold and starting to say, okay, what am I going to write here? And, in the beginning, it felt like, well, I'm going to write about stuff that I know and it's about my own life. It should be easy, right? Well, it wasn't, you know. And what you've been able to do, and you're actually really good at this, is give structure.
What's one surprising personal benefit that you've received as a result of doing the book?
You've been able to draw out of me things that I hadn't remembered, and you've enriched the book, and you've enriched my own memories of my experiences and what I've been able to write by the questions you've asked me.
What is your message to people who are kind of on the fence about whether they want to do ghostwriting or not?
Having a ghostwriter and working with a ghostwriter really makes it so much better because I'm able to tell the ghostwriter my story, but she's able then to write it, and you kind of work with her to make sure that it's readable, it's going to make a good book.
What about those people who are not sure they want to do ghostwriting because of the investment required? What do you have to say to them?
I hope and expect that the book itself will bring uh, it will make the investment worthwhile. And it's not just the book being published and people buying the book and reading it, but what I'm really looking forward to are the speaking engagements. And most of your writers, when they write their books, they do get speaking engagements, and those can very much, cover the cost of the ghostwriting.
That's so true. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'm glad we worked together. And sure, we'll be seeing you. You going to do a next book, a second book?
Yes, why not? Sure.
There we go. Awesome. Great seeing you, Bruce. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
All right, you too. Thank you.